Actually, Katerika, can I speak to you? I presume I can. Katerika?
we have spent hours talking to customers, trawling community forums and testing open source applications to come up with what we believe is the ultimate managed service provider tech stack. We've got everything in here you need for your customers and for your own internal infrastructure, from things like VoIP solutions to backup to remote management, marketing automation tools, and much, much more. Not only that, but we've brought in two absolute authorities in the space. We've got Tom Lawrence, MSP and content creator with 47 million YouTube views, and Jay LaCroix, technologist and head of Learn Linux TV, to help us write it. So if you're not happy with the vendors you're using at the moment, perhaps you'd like something that develops faster, offers a better standard of support, you owe it to yourself to go and see what's out there in the world of open source. Grab your copy now, the link's below, and no email address is required.
Hey everyone, how you doing? I couldn't resist that. We had to put a shameless plug in there. How are you doing? It's James here. My name's James. I'm from Akamai Cloud Computing, and I work in the partner team. I'm a partner community advocate, and today we're here to talk about boosting IaaS margins and avoiding vendor lock-in. So the reason we have this session is because, well, first of all, I wanted to connect again with the lovely people we spoke to at the Channel Partners event in Las Vegas. But it's also to provide something useful for our existing partners that isn't just a sales pitch. So I've tried to put something together genuinely useful that's worthy of 25 minutes of your time, your very precious time, and that will be of interest to you and colleagues. So hopefully by the end of this, you might even want to share it. You can, of course, ask questions in the chat as we go along. This is going out live on LinkedIn and YouTube. And if the technology is working correctly, we'll be able to see the questions coming in from both those channels. So I'll keep an eye on that and respond to them, and I can bring them up on the screen as well, so we can have a little chat as we go along. So the session itself is 25 minutes, plus we're going to add some time on at the end for the Q&A. So let's have a look. We'll go with we'll go with this view, I think, today. There we go. So as I mentioned, I'm James. So I work on the partner team side. So my job as partner community advocate is to get out there in the community, spread the word of Akamai Cloud Computing, and I'm also involved in a lot of the sort of content creation and, of course, things like this. So today we're going to be talking about. So we're going to have a quick look at the market growth trends. So we're going to sort of highlight the opportunity that is the cloud. And then I'm going to dive a little bit into a bit more detail around that and look at the sort of advancing, sort of some of the more advanced technologies that are driving sort of cloud services. Then we're going to have a look at who's buying. So who should you be targeting? But the meat of this session really is about top tips to sort of grow your cloud business. So that's what I'm going to be getting into. That's what we're going to be focusing on. And then I'll do a short pitch at the end. It's literally just a 1 minute thing. So this is aimed at any technology service provider working with small and medium-sized companies, whether you're a managed service provider, dev agency, digital agency, or indeed a managed hosting provider. There should be useful content in here for you. So let's take a minute then just to set the scene. So last month, Gartner let us know that despite everything that's going on in the world with inflation and macroeconomic pressures, cloud spending is not slowing. As you can see here, the total market is estimated to hit nearly 600 billion this year. I find that number quite hard to relate to, actually, as somebody who works mainly in the small business space. But what I do find useful to look at are the growth rates. So the anticipated total spend on cloud services has been adjusted this year up to 21% year on year, which is a few points over last year. And what you're looking at here is the total cloud market spend. And while all of the segments there are expected to see healthy growth, infrastructure as a service in particular is the one forecast to experience the highest rise, increasing by 30.9%, followed by platform as a service at 24.1%. So it's probably a good idea at this point, just before I go any further, to just clarify the definitions of those cloud services. So obviously I'll be talking about this a little bit. So just let's have a quick look at the cloud computing model. What I'll do is use an analogy. So we've got a number of different services. We've got SaaS. This is basically like renting your fully furnished apartment. You don't own the furniture or appliances, but you can use them. This is your Google Drives, your Google Docs, Salesforce, and that kind of thing. Accessed via web browser, fully formed, finished services. Then you've got PaaS, so platform as a service. This you can think of as kind of renting a partially finished house. So you can add some of your own furniture and paint the walls, but the basic structure and utilities like your electricity and water are all there. So if you're a developer, all the tools you need are in place. And then you've got infrastructure as a service, so IaaS, and this is like renting a vacant plot of land essentially. So you can build whatever you want from scratch, but you're responsible for everything. This is the raw building blocks. We're talking servers, storage, network, and basically this is for you to build your applications. An example would be Amazon EC2 or indeed Akamai cloud computing. In our case, you pick a server, the location, operating system, firewall, networking options, and within seconds you've got a working VM. So definitions out of the way, let's go back to the cloud growth and the opportunity there. What is it that's driving spending? Well, essentially, it's this big old umbrella term, digital transformation. Gartner reckon that by 2026, 75% of companies will be transformed by cloud-based services. What does this actually mean? In addition to the traditional benefits of cloud computing companies, and within them, multiple business units, companies and within them, multiple business units are seeing more clearly than ever before the opportunity to get huge efficiencies and competitive advantage by harnessing not just the cloud, but more recently, some of these emerging sort of advanced technologies that you're seeing. It's not a session about AI, but it will be a recurring thing. It's very closely linked. Things like generative AI, automated chatbots, and this concept of digital twins. So bringing physical environments like a production floor into the digital world in real time, and then even this Mark Zuckerberg's dream of the purely virtual metaverse, they're all becoming relevant now. In fact, they're changing how your customers do business. And all of this is driving that need for cloud services. Not only that, but you can guarantee every SaaS provider worth their salt at the moment is going back as fast as they can and reinventing their products because they're in real danger of looking obsolete with this advanced tech coming out. I don't know about you, but I've been hearing about sort of emerging technologies like this for a long time. And I've always had an interest in it, but actually relating the tech to particularly small businesses, it's always felt too early, like the link wasn't really there just yet. But for the first time, it's a real driver now of digital transformation and therefore cloud business. So essentially, healthy growing market, you absolutely, as a tech service provider, need to be capitalizing on this. So here we go. Let's take a look then at some of the strategies and the tactics that you can use to make the most of this opportunity and to drive, ultimately, cloud profits. So my first tip for driving more cloud business is to know who you should be focusing your efforts on. Which are the companies, and I'm talking about the small business space here, which are the ones that stand to benefit the most from digital transformation, possibly advanced tech, and ultimately cloud computing services. Based on what I see in our customer base and in the industry, these are the top 6 where I would recommend you certainly consider focusing some efforts. The first one, e-commerce. It's growing rapidly, and these businesses need to manage huge amounts of data. Milliseconds of loading time have a really direct impact on the bottom line. And they need to offer personalized user experiences now to compete and be able to cope with that fluctuating demand. Cloud technology is absolutely fundamental for these guys. One example for generative AI, it can be used for personalized product recommendations, while cloud computing services can provide the infrastructure to help these companies scale in a way that they can't do with SaaS. So they need that ability to manage web traffic spikes during peak shopping seasons, for example. Then you've got things like chatbots, which can provide 24/7 customer support. This is all suddenly relevant technology. Ultimately, it's all about helping them. Your job is to help them provide better customer experiences, get better conversions, and more efficient use of resources. So this sector in particular, these guys, this is a good one. They stand to win big. In fields like law, consulting, marketing, data analysis, and predicting trends are critical for success. And this is where AI can really help again. It can do things like automate that stuff and trend prediction, which means better decision-making, better client services, and improved efficiency. And because of the vast and real mix in types of data and workflows in professional services companies, they often need more custom solutions and the ability to handle big data, which are normally beyond the scope of a typical sort of SaaS solution. Moving on, healthcare clinics. So the pandemic caused a really sharp rise in the need for sort of telehealth services for remote patient care, as you can imagine. This sector is another one that's primed to benefit from cloud and advanced tech. AI can support diagnostics, chatbots can provide patient support, and this idea of digital twins can be used for sort of planning treatments and things like that. And it's the complexity of health data and systems that mean these are the guys that tend to need those custom solutions. Plus, health data privacy regulations mean there's need for more control over infrastructure than you'd normally expect to be offered by a SaaS solution. Another great one, logistics and supply chain companies. So these are good because their business is all about optimization, which is why they need really robust data management and often quite advanced analytics. As you can probably imagine, AI can do an amazing job when it comes to one of the basic, otherwise human resource heavy tasks, like just optimizing like a route plan, for example. Then you've got stuff like digital twins, which can simulate and optimize entire logistics networks. So this is all running on cloud tech, and there's big savings and efficiency gains here to be made. If they've got the right cloud transformation partner, i.e. you guys, then they stand to win big. My next tip is around buddying up, essentially. So there was a lot of technology and demand for skills I've just talked about there. Sometimes the key to expanding your business is recognizing that you can't do it all alone. This is where strategic partnerships come into play. So don't be afraid of partnering with another company to satisfy some of these requirements. We're fortunate to be in an industry where peer groups are common. On the whole, partnerships are welcomed. By partnering with businesses that specialize in areas outside your core competencies, you can offer a broader range of services without making substantial investments that may not yield that consistent return you'd want them to. Consider forming partnerships on a project-by-project basis, or establish long-term relationships for those sort of more recurring needs. But however, just make sure that obviously these companies you partner with do actually align with your values, your brand, your business objectives, and so on. Couple of examples of how you could partner up. So, obviously, we've just been talking about AI. You've got AI and sort of cybersecurity services. So many MSPs outsource services to specialized, AI or cybersecurity firms. And these firms keep up to date with the latest tech and security protocols, which can be challenging. If you're a sort of more of a generalist MSP, that can be quite a tricky thing to do. Dev shops and digital agencies. Many dev shops choose to outsource QA and testing to specialized firms, which allows the dev shop to focus on their core competency of development. And dev shops often partner with digital agencies. So the digital agency handles the fluffy stuff, as I like to call it. So these are the bits that I like. User interface and user experience design, while the dev shop handles the coding and the implementation. And of course, it can work both ways. So actionable takeaway for you. Identify areas of your service portfolio that you could benefit from external expertise bringing in. So begin researching potential partners who potentially could fill these needs. By the way, reach out to me. We have a partner directory which was recently launched. That could be a good place to start. But if you want to have a chat, if you want some help there, by all means, reach out to me, and I can hook you up with the right people and maybe point in the right direction. So along a similar line then, let's talk about leaning on your vendors. So it's in the similar vein, really. You can improve your margins by using the resources of your vendors. you can see our partner program here. This is just one. So let's just talk about cloud providers, seeing as we are one. So your relationship with your cloud provider shouldn't be just purely this transactional thing. Look at companies like us as an extension of your business. Use our pre-sale support to help, scope projects and sort of bounce ideas around. Use our post-sale support to minimize, your help desk time, and take advantage of things like, obviously the support from the team, but also marketing funds. So actionable takeaway, and this isn't just about cloud providers, this is about all the vendors you work with. Trust me, from being on this side and seeing it, there's not that many partners that kind of reach out and say, hey, look, what can I do to really get on your radar, and how can you help me better? So, I suggest you do that. I think that's good advice. So reach out to your cloud provider, discuss how you can deepen your partnership to benefit both of you. Whenever I ask the question to partners, do you focus on any kind of particular vertical? More often than not, the answer is going to be, well, yeah, no, we just kind of look after everyone. And that's fine. I'm not knocking it, particularly when you're starting out and you're more inclined to take the business that comes your way. However, there are many benefits to adopting a niche. So should we call it a niche, really, shouldn't we? I've noticed with some of the highest performing partners I've worked with over the years, that actually they've been doing exactly that. They've chosen their growth area, maybe two. It could be from those we talked about earlier on, and they've really focused on developing a proposition around it. So the first benefit of doing this is you get really deep expertise in the sector. It sounds obvious, but it's true. By focusing on a specific vertical sector, as a tech service provider, in no time, you're going to have in-depth knowledge and understanding of that sector. So you can tailor services, you can tailor your marketing messages specifically to the need of those businesses. And trust me, the more tailored you are with an approach, the better the results will be. It'll also help your credibility. Potential clients will start to see you as a specialist in their field, and you'll have a track record to back it up as well. So you may even find yourself getting called on for things like speaking gigs and getting sort of free exposure at events. I've just noticed my camera's died, by the way, so I'm going to switch that off, and we'll just stick to these. But we can manage. We'll battle through anyway. That's fine. So the other benefit of niching down, why should you think about this? Well, it's efficient use of resources. So a niche approach also helps you focus your resources instead of being spread thin. Thinking about a long list of business models and the related tech requirements. You can focus your team and money on one or maybe two, leading to higher profitability and efficiency. Better communication with clients. When you have an understanding of the specific language and nuances of it, the challenges of the sector, you can walk the walk, talk the talk, and communicate more effectively with your clients. That's only going to lead to stronger relationships and satisfaction. Obviously, it's all about client retention, all that good stuff. The other thing I love about niching down is there's less competition. When you carve out a specific niche, you automatically differentiate yourself in what, in our case, is a really competitive market. You go from, I guess, you could be whatever, ABC technology to technology for legal, for example, or maybe you just adjust the strap line to say it, but you're focused. And this will almost certainly lead to less competition and a longer, sort of stronger position in the market. Another benefit here as well is potential clients within the sector will likely want to work with a specialist in their field over a generalist service provider, given the choice. There's also the angle of faster innovation. So a benefit of focusing on a specific sector means you're more likely to identify new needs, opportunities, and trends within that sector because you're immersed in it totally. Let's be honest. We've talked about how fast the cloud technology sector is moving. This helps you invest in understanding the AI stuff, what you can do with chatbots, digital twins, and even metaverse if you go down that route, through the lens of your target vertical. And that's going to help you with new and hopefully reusable to some degree solutions, services, and cloud architectures. Now, there is, of course, a caveat to the niche strategy. Having all of your eggs in one basket does expose you to a little bit of risk. So should there be a sudden change in the market, you only got to look at like hospitality, for example, during lockdown. Obviously, the rule of thumb really is to try and choose a niche, but maybe choose more than one. So go for different areas, but maybe with similar attributes. So you are diversified to a degree, legal and financial within the professional services space, for example. The key is just to find a balance, essentially. So actionable takeaway, think about a niche or vertical where your expertise would be most impactful. So tailor your cloud offerings to meet those specific needs. And you've been staring at the website of Dog's Body Technology for a little while there. So this is a really good example. So these guys are very clear about who they work with. You know, there's just SaaS companies and web agencies. And as a result, they do fantastically well. And all of their messaging is you know, it's customized around those particular sectors. I really like talking about this stuff, so don't hesitate to drop me a line again if you'd like some input or you just want to bounce some ideas around. If I can't help, I've got a really great network of people who can, so feel free to use those. Okay, so we've done niching down. We've focused pretty much on new customers to this point, but boosting those cloud profits isn't always about attracting new customers. To be careful not to overlook the existing ones. And one way to do this, to think about cloud services, is as a land and expand play, which, yeah, I kind of sound like I'm from the marketing department now, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about here. All we're talking about really is establishing a relationship with your clients by doing a good job. So when you get that migration work, website or application design, whatever it might be, then expand that person's sell by having a range of upsell services ready. If you offer managed hosting, you could, for example, introduce services like disaster recovery, cloud-based backup, consulting services. Now, a good example I know of here you can see is my colleague Rob Gibbons at Cara Technologies. He's a small MSP here in the UK, and he's using what we call a service matrix. And as you can see, they've got customers down one side, and then all the products and services along the top there. This isn't actually Rob's matrix. I've just grabbed this one, but it's the same principle. And the idea is, you know, you select your services, and then you want to have a tick in every single box for every customer in an ideal world. Preferably, you know, those are recurring services as well. So it's a nice visual way to see the opportunity. I actually spoke to Rob about this, and they first started with an average service taken rate of 3.2%. And after working through this idea, just for a year, not dedicating all the focus, but they bumped it right up to, I think it was 7.4% across the entire customer base, which, you know, I think it was worth sort of 20K to them, maybe a month. So in additional recurring revenue. So it's, you know, it's a simple idea, but it can go a long way. So if you're interested in this approach, go and check out Rob's interview on the Not an MSP shows. He talks about that and quite a lot more. It's quite an interesting one, and it's definitely not just for MSPs. It's really useful advice if you're in another tech provider sector as well. My next tip is around pricing strategy. Welcome, Safan. I can see you there. So you've just joined a session on cloud, basically tips for cloud tech service providers on how to boost margins, how to grow cloud business, and to do it without getting locked into vendors. So welcome. Feel free to join. Hopefully, I don't know where you've come in from, YouTube, I guess, but welcome. Good to see you. Feel free to ask any questions. So the next tip is around cost of service delivery. So first off, understanding the total costs in delivery is absolutely crucial. Focus on your EBITDA. It sounds really obvious, but the latest service leadership survey highlighted that 1 in 4 tech service providers are break even or losing money, which I was really surprised to see. Costs need to be documented, preferably in a tool. They should include all costs of goods sold, like software licensing, fees, public cloud infrastructure, support personnel salaries, as well as indirect costs like overhead. Overhead and sort of administrative expenses. The next tip is avoid surprises. Where possible, work with suppliers with simple cost models where there's no chance of being hit with a huge bandwidth, storage, or egress bill because you didn't account for what was basically pricing that was too complex and your team didn't get a proper handle on it. think about market competition. You can't ignore market forces. You do need to be aware of what competitors are charging. However, my advice is to avoid competing on price when you can. So find ways to make your process, so the approach, the way you engage with customers and prospects, unique, and package it like that. Make your proposition a unique thing. Think about a sort of good, better, best approach. And I really like, actually, one of our partners. So this is Wim Kirchhoff, fantastic business. So he does sort of Linux consultancy and sort of cloud consultancy services. And you can see from his website here, he has a list of services on there. And then if you click through so I click infrastructure managed services, you can see he's got TLC basic, TLC standard. Not necessarily revolutionary, but the way that they've packaged it up, the engagement approach they take makes it unique. So when it comes to comparing, providers, a customer wants to compare costs, suddenly, you've got this package that has unique value, and it's all about then, really, what you're focusing on then really is the sort of the perceived value, and you can concentrate on what you're actually doing for the company and charge it that way. So, actionable takeaway: get to the point where you know your EBITDA. If you don't, you definitely need to focus on that. Evaluate the pricing model you're using, and does it accurately reflect your value proposition, and is it easy for customers to understand? Make any changes to that. All sounds very simple, I know, but I'll leave it to you guys to implement. You can, of course, talk to us about this stuff, though. I did an interview with Wim, really interesting, I think so anyway. He sort of lifted the lid on his business, so feel free to check out on our Linode Partners YouTube channel. You can watch that and get some more insight. My next tip is about your valuable resources. So optimize your humans. Now, this applies to any area of the business. So we're talking about cloud. So what I'm going to do is focus in on developers as an example, but it does, it applies to any sort of staff resource costs. We have to understand that for developers anyway, their main value lies in their coding expertise, not in platform administration or anything else around it. They don't come cheap, and they're also capable of delivering, significant value to your business and to those of your customers if you're sort of managed effectively. So be wary of anything that distracts them from their primary work. And this also touches on the vendors and technologies that you're using. Are they causing unwanted management overhead? In the case of your cloud provider, if customers don't need the complexity and endless setup options you'll expect to go through with a hyperscaler, save your developer time with a simpler platform and setup process. You want your team to quickly and efficiently deploy a server, Kubernetes cluster, or storage without having to jump through a load of unnecessary hoops. There's a balance, of course. You want your developers to understand what they're doing with the infrastructure, but you don't want them to get bogged down by tasks that aren't needed or that can be easily outsourced or automated. Just a bit of a shout out to the chat guys. So David, yes, of course. Yeah, definitely. I think actually on LinkedIn, I think you can literally just come back to this link and rewind it and you'll be able to watch it again. So Safan, I have to chat to you about that, about Firebase, proper solutions for cloud business. Yeah, I'll touch on that with you afterwards. I'll tell you what, feel free to reach out. If you want to have a chat, you can contact partners at linode.com. We're still using the Linode domain. Feel free to reach out there with any questions and we can definitely take that up with you. So just to carry on this idea of making the most of your sort of expensive, valuable resources, there's a rule that I aspire to live by in business, and I don't always do a great job of it, I must admit, but it's only do what only you can do. So remove, outsource anything beyond the specific areas where you and your staff add most value. And that applies here. So what I'd say to you as an actionable takeaway here is track your developer or engineer time. There are apps to help you with this. There's Timely is a great one that's AI based, so it sort of takes out the hassle of having to enter stuff. It just shows you, what you're working on and when, and identify areas where developers are working on admin tasks that could be potentially outsourced or where there's too much time being taken necessarily on sort of setup. All right, rolling on. So getting towards the end of my selection of tips here. So consider open source. Now, open source, I flicked on the slide there, excuse me. It can really help boost your margins in a number of ways. And where we're big advocates is in cloud infrastructure projects. When you're thinking about the PaaS layer, the tools that sit on your servers, fundamentally, you're going to end up choosing whether you want to go down the route of either using proprietary and managed services like the ones you'll get from a hyperscaler, such as AWS, or you opt for an open source route instead. This is an example of what we refer to as a platform native solution. If you look on the left-hand side there, you can see these are mainly proprietary services, and in this case, AWS. So these are sold and positioned as abstracting away some of the complexity. But one of the drawbacks there is that you do pay a sizable premium for that. And often those managed services are simply, they're based on the same underlying technologies as some of the open source equivalents. So building the same or similar solution with open source tooling, you can see on the right-hand side here, you've got that huge benefit of minimizing your risk of being locked into a proprietary service indefinitely. You've got a portable design there that's going to enable you to be cloud agnostic, so you're never tied into an expensive managed service. If you aren't happy with us, for example, as a cloud provider, then you do have the freedom to move. Obviously, you have to design your solution in that way, but you're always able to take advantage of the best value cloud platforms, and it keeps us on our toes, honestly, as a provider. If you're portable, that changes the game somewhat. You're not locked into the one location, and that can be like in a multi-cloud scenario or standalone solution. So benefits of that solution include improved security, increased resiliency, and of course, you're going to get a much better price performance ratio. And finally, to finish up, I'd say you need to be making sure that you're matching your workloads with the providers. So there's a lot of information on this slide, but a key area where you can boost your margins on cloud projects is making sure that you've got the right provider for the right workload. And this means thinking about, next time a cloud project comes up, do you need the cost and complexity of a hyperscaler, or is the project better suited to an alternative? So here's a few signs that you might want to look out for that will kind of indicate whether this is a project for a hyperscaler or not. Is it web hosting? So if it's web hosting or even just basic containerized workloads, perhaps affordability and simplicity are more important. If it's testing and sandbox purposes, are you looking for a developer-friendly testing environment? The hyperscalers can be very costly here to be spinning services up and down. We actually find a lot of customers start using us for testing initially, and then later down the line, they end up, with sort of production projects on there. Affordability, if cost is a major factor for one of your clients, a more straightforward and significantly less expensive pricing structure may be a priority. So this is especially true for startups or small businesses that perhaps need to manage their budget even more carefully. If it's a predictable workload, and by that I mean where the compute, storage, and network requirements are known quantities and don't vary massively, it could be things like penetration testing, load testing, failover, backup, disaster recovery, for example. Or you've got they just need the customer service needs to be there. So perhaps, pre-sales help and phone support are really important for a particular project, and you're not spending enough to get that level of support that you need from one of the sort of the large hyperscaler companies. You're not getting, you can't pick up the phone and talk to them in some cases, depending on, what your level of spend is. Then, of course, if it's an open source project that a customer is looking to build, then that's a clear indicator that you should be thinking about perhaps a different platform as well. So in summary, there's a lot of words on that screen as well. So in summary, cloud computing, huge area, it's growing by advanced tech. I mean, you can basically benefit from going after the right profile of customer, partnering up to broaden your portfolio, making more of your vendors, so putting us under more pressure and asking more of us, niching down, so focusing on one sector. I love that one. I would urge you to really look at that. Get your cross-sells in place, your upsells. Make sure you know your costs and package yourself in a way that you're not copyable. You've got a unique proposition. Think like Wim. Optimize your humans, so make sure you're getting the most out of your developers. Think about open source, of course, and then make sure you're matching the provider with the workload. So before we finish, let me just give the elevator pitch on our services in case you're watching this and thinking, who are these guys? I've stumbled across some random link on the internet and I don't know what's going on. So this is, I'll give you just a 1 minute version of who we are. So we provide, cloud computing core primitives in a similar vein to somebody like AWS. And as you may have guessed, we're huge proponents of a cloud native and a cloud agnostic approach using open source. I like it. It's where the onus is on us to do a good job, and basically we've got the ability to move if you want to. But as you can see, we do compute, storage, managed databases, Kubernetes. We have over 12 data center locations at the moment. That's doubling. Now we're part of Akamai. We're rolling out quite an exciting project. I won't go into that totally, but it's Akamai Connected Cloud. It's basically bringing all the services together, Akamai CDN, security services, and what was formerly Linode's hosting services, doubling the data center presence, and then introducing what we call distributed sites, so over 4,000 distributed sites. So it's going to be a really interesting network topology by the time this project is finished. And it's an exciting thing to be a part of as a partner, being able to bring data closer to the edge. Reason people use us, we're a fraction of the cost of AWS, can be, depending on the project, around 30% if you're just comparing EC2 instances, for example. Very easy to quote. You can head on over to our site. That's our pricing calculator. So you can see there, just literally just choose your specification, storage, and so on. We've got a detailed pricing calculator, nice and straightforward. Simple pricing. There you go. We can fit it all in one PDF. So I don't think some of the larger players can do that. And for developers, really, the reason developers like us is the fact that our interface is super simple. It's very quick to spin up a server. So you can, you're absolutely up and running in minutes rather than whatever it takes to spin up a hyperscaler service these days. Support's very good. I'll let you do your own due diligence on that. You can check us out, but you consistently are winning Stevie Awards, and it's a huge part of who we are, both in the partner team, the care that we offer within the sort of the partner ecosystem, but also the tech support, the pre-sales, and so on. We have a partner program. It has discounts and referrals and that kind of stuff. There's support available. You've got a choice of business models, and kind of standard stuff on the partner front. Partners who do well with us, we like to work closely with and perhaps look at things like marketing development funds and that kind of thing. So if you're a MSP, dev shop, digital agency, managed hosting provider, there's a resale element. Feel free to have a chat to us. There's no penalties there. It's you get discounts for including us in your cloud projects. Next steps. You saw the advert for the ebook. That's brand new. So the bottom left is the open source tech stack guide. Go and grab a copy of that. We've spent a lot of time on that. It's basically a directory of more of the end user facing tools, I would say, but it's a full tech stack in open source. So these aren't products we're selling. They're just literally ones we like and we want to sort of get in front of you. So go and check those out. And we do a whole range of fantastic ebooks. If you want to get a handle on infrastructure as code, sorry, I always get that wrong. Then go and check those out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. So if you're here on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe. And if you're not, then head on over to Linode Partners on YouTube. We do regular monthly roundups. In fact, there's one out any minute, I think. So yeah, go and check that out. That'll be fresh off the press. And if you're a partner, we can give you $500 of free cloud credit. So if you want to do some sandboxing, some testing, whatever it is, then that's a special offer for partners. It's normally $100 for sort of direct companies, but obviously we've got a real desire to make sort of long-term partner relationships. So have a chat to us about that. Speak to the partner team, partners@linode.com, and we have sort of the partner account executives able to help you there. So that was it. We rattled through that pretty quick. Is there sort of any questions at all? So Safan, thanks a lot for that. That's really good. Really good. I appreciate the feedback there. I'll hang fire for a few minutes. So you can just go to linode.com/partners and you'll see there's a link to, if you'd like to get some sort of free cloud credits, by all means do. I hope you found this useful. As I say, this presentation was really about trying to give you some useful kind of pieces, nuggets of information you could use regardless of whether you interact with us ever again or whether you become a partner straight away. Okay, well, listen, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. So obviously just my name, James Steele. You'll find me pretty easily on LinkedIn. So you're welcome to connect with me there. And as I say, if you've got any questions, it's partners@linode.com. Also, as a little bonus for the fact that you've made it to the end of my presentation, we're going to dish out a Starbucks voucher. That's part of the coffee and cloud concept. So if you email partners@linode.com with your name, address, and email, provided you're in one of the Starbucks supported regions, then you're more than welcome to benefit from a $25 Starbucks voucher. So just email us for that and we'll get it sent out to you straight away. All right, that's it. I'll wrap up there. But thank you so much for joining us. I know in the middle of your day, it's a lot to ask, so I appreciate that. And hopefully you found it useful. Please feel free to share. All right, take care. All the best.